Welcome to Creative Clarity, Season 2 of the original podcast, Intentional Harmony. Season 2 is all about talking with some of the most creative minds I can get my hands on. These people have two things in common. They're passionate about what they do, and they love to create. From writers, to musicians, to artists, to business entrepreneurs, you're going to learn a ton. My name is Katie Warren, and I'm a creativity coach who helps entrepreneurs stop playing small and start living the life that they love through their creative gifts. Are you stuck in your 9-to-5 job? Maybe feeling like you're not good enough to make a living off of your creative gift? You're looking for more? Maybe even wondering how you can start your own business in a creative industry? Then you are in the right place, my friend. You're going to hear me cover topics all about understanding and improving the creative process. You're also going to hear interviews from amazing creative minds, learning what makes them tick, how they overcome creative blocks, how to generate new ideas, and how to get inspired. Sit back, grab some coffee, and let's get to it. Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another episode of Intentional Harmony, Creative Clarity. Today we're going to talk to Jarrod Crooks. I used to work with him, and he is just such a fun guy, and he's super, super talented. Jarrod is a Wausau, Wisconsin film director who's been filming since he was about 12, starting out by recreating classic stories like Faust, The Man in the Iron Mask, and The Purloined Letter. He eventually began creating his own stories like Ice War and The First Mission. Crooks later added martial art fight scenes to his films after he saw the first Jackie Chan movie. Jarrod has made several no-budget feature films over the years, including Dispatch, which you can actually find on Amazon, and a bunch of short films, which mostly can be seen on his YouTube channel. I will link this in the show notes so you guys can go check him out right after the episode. Without further ado, here's Jarrod Crooks.
Finish whatever it is that you're going to start. You may not always like it. You may think that this is not what you expected, and you might want to give up. Please finish it, and don't be afraid to share it, because if you just keep everything to yourself, nobody's going to know how beautiful it is that this thing that you've created.
How did you get started in videography in general? Like, where did it start?
Where did it start for me? I was 12 years old. At that time, I was really into the show Wishbone. Do you know the show Wishbone?
I do.
Like the little dog with a big imagination. And he would do these literature pieces where it'd be like, oh, let's go back to the day that Edgar Allan Poe wrote this story. And I was fascinated by the show, but what really intrigued me was at the end, they would show how they made it. And so I was like, oh, really cool. Yeah, they'd have this fake paw that would come up to like pull back an arrow so the dog looked like he was shooting a bow and arrow. And so the first things we were doing were recreating literature pieces, and they were horrible, to say the least. That's how it started for me.
Did you know right away that you wanted to just do this for a living?
I think I was always going to end up doing something that was creative. I think it just kept developing, because then I discovered Jackie Chan, and then I had a love for martial arts, and then those two things started coming together. But it didn't start where I was like, I want to be a filmmaker. It was like, I want to be an actor. But nobody was making films in Wausau, Wisconsin, or at that time I lived in Athens, Wisconsin, with a population of 900 people. So no one is making films. So I had to learn to make films. And going back to one of those original pieces that we did, we would set up the camera on a tripod. And I don't know if the mindset was like, if we set it up, it'll capture everything. Because we'd walk in the frame and our butts, that's all you'd see. It's like, well, this is mostly unusable, I guess. Yeah, that's how it started.
Okay, got it. So were you in any film clubs in high school, or did you just buy a camera and you were kind of off on your own?
Boy, I didn't even buy a camera. I eventually moved out of Athens and I came to Wausau, which had 2,000 people. And they had a public access station that would allow you to use equipment. And I was like, well, yeah, my parents buy me a camera, so I guess I'll borrow one. So that was a great. No one taught, when I go to public access, they would let me borrow the equipment, but no one was sitting down teaching me how to edit, but they would just here's our editing software, and here's the camera, have at it. And so it was really just being self-taught. There were no film clubs in high school or any school. I was the film club. I was it. So, but people, they love to be a part of the things that I was doing. Of course, I did get made fun of a lot, well, because it's like a nerd thing to do, especially in 1998, 2000, I was in the 8th grade. And so it was very nerd. It didn't become cool until YouTube to make movies and make, it was just like, saw your little movie on the public access, you little nerd, man. That's what it was. Like, okay, thank you.
So was it intimidating then, since really no one else was doing this around you? You didn't have like too many people to ask how to do things. So like, was it more exciting or was it more intimidating?
Well, I never felt intimidated. I think I would have felt intimidated if there were more people doing it, because then I kind of felt like maybe there was like a competitor or something. There was somebody, and a friend of mine, she was in class and they were talking about cliques. And it's like there's the jocks and the nerds and the whatever, all these different cliques. And then, because we always have to like group people, right? And someone in class, actually, she told us, like, someone in class asked this. It's like, what about Jarrod's movie club? And it's like, are they a clique? They're their own little clique. But it wasn't like I had like a bunch of people. It was just my friends. And luckily, some of my friends knew martial arts. So that's where I was like, this might sound bad coming, but I had a lot of Hmong friends because they grew up watching martial arts films. So it was always weird seeing the white guy fight all these Asians. That's what it was. Those were the films that I did in high school.
Do you still have them?
Do I still have all those movies?
Yes.
Or the friends?
No, the movies.
Yeah,
like, have you ever watched it back?
Yeah, and it's horrible. What's really, I shouldn't say it's horrible. It's humbling, because I look back at it and it's like, I cannot believe that I was excited to show people this, because it's embarrassing to see where you start, but it's also humbling, because then you see how much you've grown. And I always know that I am never satisfied with anything that I do. Nothing. I make something and then I'm like, yeah, it's okay. And some people's like, this is really good. And I was like, yeah, because if I ever become like, this is it, I've now reached.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go. The top. Yeah. And I always was like, I have so much to learn, and I know that I do. And I look at other things that people are doing, and I'm like, I really want to be here. But if I want to get it, I go look at something that's crap, because then I'm like, well, at least I'm better than this. So that motivates me to try to reach that. Because looking at something that's so good, like a Hollywood production, I'm like, there's no way. How can I ever achieve that?
If you get $1 million.
Yeah, and I'd have to surround myself with extremely talented people. It's hard being a one-man band.
Yeah.
It's just, you need other people that you can count on, especially when you're creating something like a film. Mm-hmm. Even a band, you can't. I mean, if you're just that guy who's got the harmonica here and the guitar here and there, your little keyboard out, I mean, it looks a little ridiculous. And it's like, wow, it seems like he's what's that saying? Jack of all trades, but a master of none.
Master of none, yeah.
That's how I feel a lot of the time.
Yeah. So how do you go about finding people to be in your films?
I want to say that so I'm 35 now, but in my early 20s, I found that it was easier to get people. My friends there's this thing that happens when all of a sudden you start getting into your 30s, where people start having families and kids. And so I go calling up my buddies now and be like, want to make a movie this week? I was like, no, I'm changing diapers. Talk to you later. So it's just harder now. But there's still, if you travel out to the Twin Cities, there's still a huge group of people and industry out there where you can grab up actors. And actors are weird because they'll work for free. Actors will work for free because they're very vain people who just want to be on camera, right? But getting crew, it's a little bit different. If you want an experienced camera person, and that's something I've always struggled with, because I like to act and I'm always in my own things. So trying to run camera and also be in in your project, it's difficult. So I'm always grabbing a fellow actor, like, you want to learn camera today? You know?
And then you just have to edit out all of the crap that they didn't film well.
Yeah, absolutely. I usually just kind of teach them. It's like, here's the shot. We're just going to focus on this shot. I want it to come in like this or whatever. And then they'll film it. I'll do it 10 times, 100 times. If I think my record take for the most takes is 325 takes I did to achieve something.
What was it?
It was like a little fight thing where like I smack a gun and then he has to catch it and then he brings it in and I block it. And it was like, because the catch was so hard to get it right in the frame. So that's why I was like, let's do it again.
That takes some patience.
Yes. Yeah. Filmmaking will teach you patience. I think being an artist will teach you patience.
True.
Being an artist is, it's learning life all the time.
Yeah.
It's learning to be comfortable with failure.
That is true. That is so true. It's hard. I don't know if it ever gets easier, but
I hope not. I think that's the beauty of it.
It is.
That it's not easy.
Yeah, for sure. So what is your creative process like? Because you literally are a jack of all trades. Like, you film it, you act in it, you edit it, you publish it, and you put it on social and market it. So like, what is your process when you start, like, okay, I want to work on a project? Where do you even start?
I mean, usually I'll just have an idea of, or sometimes it can be as simple as like, I want to work with somebody new. I just did this project that I put on YouTube like a month ago. And I was working with these two very talented actresses in the Twin Cities, and they're trying to make a TikTok video, and they can't get their camera to stand up. And so they ask a complete stranger, myself, and I don't hit record. And so this fight scene takes place, and it's just this fun little piece that we filmed. It was 2 days of filming. But it was like, okay, I want to work with them. I think it'll be fun to do this. And so I just write a script. You know, working with kids, I had to like talk to the parents first is really what it comes down to. It's like, hey, I think your daughter is very talented. Would they like to work with me? Here's some samples of my work. And they were very gung-ho about it. And so I just wrote a script, sent it, and I was like, all right, we're going to film. And that's how it's for me. Now I've been doing it a long time, where ideas are a little bit harder to come by now. One, because I'm always trying to push myself. So it's not as easy, where it's just like, we can just do something and it doesn't matter. I want to do work that matters. When you're just starting out, you just do whatever because you're so excited. You're so excited to just do anything. And now it's like, okay, how can I outdo what I did before?
Yeah.
And that, going back to watching crappy films, that's a huge motivation for me. Like, I'll see something and I'm like, all right, I can do better than that. I got to get out there and make something. I don't know why that inspires me so much, but it does. But watching a good movie can too. I just watched Mulan. I just watched the new Mulan, and that actually did inspire me again, because I watched that and I was like, this is really good. I like the martial arts in it. Not that there's a great deal of it, but yeah, I mean, a good movie can inspire me too. But.
Yeah, for sure. Is that typically, like, looking at other people's work, is that where you pull your inspiration from? Where do you go to generate new ideas?
I don't know about the new ideas. I mean, the motivation comes from seeing other people's work. But I don't know about ideas. That's something. I mean, I did a feature film once where it was like, we spent 2 years. When I do a feature film, and I've done a couple, it takes like 2 years to make that film. And I just know that that's it. That's going to be my life for the next 2 years. And I wanted to do one about making independent films. And we did this film called Indie Guys, which we wrapped in 2016 is when we premiered that. But I wanted to share what it was like, because I don't think that everybody really gets it when they watch these independent films. It's really easy to look at it and be like, it's kind of bad. When you're constantly watching like Hollywood productions and you see something like that, your mind is trained to see something else. And so when you see that, you're just like, this is different. And that movie for sure is geared toward independent filmmakers, people who make their own movies and understand the struggle. So it's not going to be for everybody. I remember I gave my aunt and uncle like a copy of one film that I did, which is more like a mainstream kind of movie that's like just a very standard story. And then I gave them Indie Guys as well, and they watched both. They're like, we like the other one, the Dispatched one, better. When I think Indie Guys is much more fulfilling work, because it's like that's like my personal journey almost, that I put into a narrative for people to watch. But it's each their own.
For sure. How do you deal with like feedback for your work?
Early on, I took everything to heart early on. Like I almost felt like I took it all personal, like they were trying to like hurt me. But now I don't think that at all. And if 3 people say something that's the same, then I start to be like, okay, let me reconsider that. Let me look into that. Maybe that's something I need to work on. If one person says something, that's just an opinion. Yeah. So I can't make a movie for everybody, like each individual person. It's got to be like, okay, I'm going to do what I love. And if it touches somebody or it makes somebody laugh, great. If not, I'm doing what I enjoy. Yeah. So I can't let what other people think get in the way.
For sure. Was there like a shifting point when you just kind of realized that? Or was it just gradual over time?
I think it's just gradual. Now, things can still hurt depending what is said. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's also when you do enough work, when you keep doing things, I'm always like, there's always the next project. Like if I'm going to do something and it doesn't turn out quite right, or I didn't get an idea in that I thought, oh, this would have worked great. That's okay. I'll save it for the next one, because I know there's going to be a next one. And I think some people there's this saying called don't be afraid to kill your darlings. It's where there's something that's so like, oh, this has to be in there. But if it doesn't work for the story, why are you forcing it? You have to know when something's not going to work. And you can even film it, but if you get in that editing room and you're like, it's just not working the way that I want, you have to be okay with cutting it and just save that idea down the road. Yeah.
What happens when you lose an idea? Are you like crazy about writing down everything when it comes to your mind, or do you have like a process with that?
I'm really terrible about writing down ideas. I have ideas and then they just stay in my head. I think that I do need to write things down, because sometimes I'll be sleeping at night like idea. But it's the same idea, and it's just so it's like, maybe I need to write this down so I don't have to think about it anymore. Yeah. But I'm always thinking that if I have this idea that it could lead to, more ideas, but if I don't know, maybe if I write it down, that'll still be fine. Maybe it's better if I write it down, but no, I'm pretty terrible about all my ideas come when I'm driving and I don't have a pen and paper.
I think it was Einstein who like held on to these weights when he was sleeping or when he was falling asleep. And then as soon as he would get into that phase where he like drops them to fall asleep, he'd wake up and he'd like go write down everything that he could think of as far as ideas. Yeah. Cause there's something about your brain and brain waves when you're like right in that like pre-sleep phase where your best ideas are. So there's something to that for sure.
That makes sense. I would always say that some of the best ideas, I was working third shift radio for a while, and that's when I would get very creative, is late at night. Yeah. And I still didn't write anything down.
Has being on radio affected in a positive or a negative way your creativity, your videography, and your acting?
I would say that maybe I became a slightly better reader, where, you grab that piece of paper and you have to go into this microphone and you would just you'd focus on those words so hard and articulate everything. And I really wanted to make sure that I became really good at that, at least the best to my abilities. And yeah, and I think that there was a sense of okay, when that microphone went on, you brought the energy and you made it sound like whatever you were reading was the most important thing in that moment. But that's not too different from acting. Yeah. And even doing a podcast or an interview or something like that, I bring a little bit more energy than just like, well, I mean, I like filmmaking is good. It's all right, because you're trying to like inspire people, and of course there are times when it's really, really difficult and you just feel like I got nothing. There's times where you feel like you want to give up. But you just try to bring as much energy to it as possible until you're just completely drained, I guess.
Yeah. And it is. It's exhausting. When you give it your all, you like need to go and sleep for 8 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, if you can. I've reached that point where like my body, I don't know if you ever, when your body is so sore, it's like your mind is awake, but your body is sore, or your mind is so tired that you can sleep, but your body keeps you awake because you're so sore. I've gone through it all. So all
of the trials and tribulations.
That's right. Some of the, and doing the action scenes, I'd rather bust through one day, do the entire action scene, because if we're filming again tomorrow, forget it. I can't. I'm going to be so sore. We'd have to take a week off before I could come back and even at least to give it like everything I have, because my body gets so tight, and when you run a marathon or whatever, you're so sore the next. Yeah. Exactly what it is, except you've used your whole body, and I hate like pow, like I'm going the wrong way. But if you punch your neck, all those reactions, you can't even move your neck.
Yeah, that is not even something that I considered.
Yeah, you're worthless the next day. It's really what you are. So if I know we're doing a fight, actually just try to schedule that. Like if we're filming on a weekend, I was like, okay, fight scene Sunday, week off, we'll come back next Sunday and film the rest of it. Because it's no one can train for that kind of thing, because even if you're a good fighter, you're still going to be sore because you're going to do stuff in that fight scene that you don't typically train to do. Your muscles, even if you train, if you're just you're a runner, or you train for marathons, you train your legs and your lungs. But if you all of a sudden, it's like, okay, now you're going to kick and punch for a certain thing, but if you're doing, all of a sudden you're making your body do something else, forget it.
Yeah.
There's no training for that.
Did you train at all, or like study how to fight at all to help you with the scenes, or are you just like mimicking what you're seeing?
It first started with mimicking. Like I would watch Jackie Chan and did the fight, but it was like I was watching the moves more than even how I was watching the filmmaking aspect. And then later became like studying the camera and where the camera placement would go and where the punches would. So then it eventually just, over time. But yeah, it was like I'd study the moves, and then I was really sloppy with my movement when I was young, but anybody would be. So you just keep practicing.
Yeah. Have you ever like wanted to take fight classes, or is it just purely the artistic feature?
I would think there was a tiny moment where I was like, I wanted to get into martial arts, like real martial arts. And I would work with some real martial artists, and it was weird. They'd be like, this is not really how a fight would happen. I was like, well, of course not. Of course it wouldn't, because this is a choreographed, staged fight where we know where everything, but we're trying to make it look pretty. We're not trying to make it look, I mean, at least the fights I do look a little more pretty, like a Jackie Chan fight would be more pretty, but there are those brutal fights, but still, even a brutal looking fight is well designed. It's not, because because you're not really hitting somebody, and they have to be able to react. So it's like, okay, I'm going to do 3 punches. But if you just do 2, and then you see some guy just go like that, nope, it's like, oh, I thought you were doing 3. So no, you have to be on the same page. But no, I think I just ultimately enjoyed the artistry of making a fight scene. I'm not a fan of violence. So I was like, well, the only reason that I would learn to fight is to protect myself. But how many times am I going to be in a situation? I don't live that kind of life where I'm going to be in a situation where I need to defend myself. I don't even go to the bar. So my brother, he's like a bigger guy, And he's told me all these stories about how he'd get into all these fights. I was like, how are you getting into all these? What are you doing? Why are you getting into all these fights? He's like, it's just the way I look, brother. They just come, they see that I'm a big guy and they just want to fight. And I was like, so the secret is to look small and then they won't want to beat you up.
Okay, so I've always wondered this. How are you making all of the sound effects? What's your process for that?
Okay, well, I have a library of sound effects, but I don't just take they make a punch sound, and, it's like, and but I'm like, that's not enough. So I start layering the sound. So I'll take I'll take that sound, and then that'll be like when someone punches, then I'll add that in, and then the punch, I'll just add like layers, and I'll just add weight depending how much if it's just like pop, 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 but then I have this bigger punch that's coming, I use more sound and like layer that up more. So depending on how strong I want that punch to be or impactful it's going to be in that scene, like if it's going to be the thing that knocks the guy out, then it's like a big one.
That's fascinating. So you're literally breaking it up into like every like forward motion of the move. Huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long does that take you usually?
I don't know. I don't really know anymore. I mean, I'm sure hours could go by and I don't even realize it. When you're just that focused, it's hard to keep track of those kind of things. I know that there will be times where I'm like, oh wow, it's dark, I haven't eaten. I mean, that's happened several times, but I'm just so invested in it. And I love that part, like the editing part, because I love seeing it come together. It's like just putting a puzzle together. And you just want to see what that puzzle is going to look like at the end. Yeah,
for sure. So do you have to like do something specific to kind of get in the zone or in your creative space? Or are you pretty much like you put on that hat once you start editing and you're good?
If it's my own thing, there's nothing that you need to do to get me there. I want to get down. But if it's somebody else's project, it's different. If it's a work or if it's a wedding, I have to be like, okay, because doing a wedding or somebody else's corporate video, that's just different. There's nothing that can get you have the skill set now to be able to do it, but you're just like, I think the only thing that motivates you at that point is like, they're giving me money. It's just this what it is.
So it's fair to say, like, once there's like because this happens with a lot of creatives too, once there's a dollar sign kind of attached to the creative work, it kind of hinders the creativity a little bit. Do you feel like that's like the same case for you?
Yeah, there's been some films, I'm going to stick with just the film thing, where I've been a part of, or I get hired for stunt work or something like that. I was on this movie called Zombies. So original. But it was a paid gig, and it was kind of like a big deal. It was filmed in Minnesota, and I was asked to come on as one of the stunt zombies, and I was like, sure.
Wow.
There's not a lot of creative process. You're hired to be the fall guy. Now, there's some things that I noticed on set, and if I think that there could be something needed, and I wouldn't necessarily recommend this for just normal stunt guys or extras to be like talking to the director, be like, hey, I have this idea. But I was standing there and I'm noticing something, and the director, he wasn't saying anything. He's just like watching this unfold. And I said, I think something right here, there's something missing in this moment when this guy comes down. He's like, yeah, okay, I could see that. It's like, do you want to get in there and do it? Not that was my intention. It was like, yeah, I can do it. But when you're getting paid for something that's on a little bit of a larger scale, you're just like a pawn in their game, if you will. Like you're just like a tool that they need in order to tell their story. And they already should have a vision. But I've been on projects where you can just tell it's like they're just making this up as they go. And a lot of artists are, and a lot of directors do. Like they get on set and they're just like, all right, I have people, now what to do? I have the script and a camera guy. What do I so yeah, there would have been so much more like if it was a passion project and they brought me on and I knew that it wasn't like a paid thing, I think I would have got a lot closer with the director and really been like, hey, I have a lot of experience with this. I'd love to be able to help. But because I was being paid, I kind of felt like, nope, they hired me to do this. And so I'm just going to keep quiet.
Yeah.
But I would love to collaborate more.
For sure.
But when you get paid, you're just kind of like, no, I was hired for this. And that's about it.
Yeah. Got it. No, that makes sense. Are you typically like doing all of your feature films and everything volunteer? Is it like actors volunteer, you volunteer your time, or are you like actually submitting this and, getting paid for it?
No, I mean, even the money that we would make at like a showing, when we have our premiere, we'd make a few $100. I don't even think we'd make. You have to pay for the theater, and then whatever you can keep. I think the last time I did it, I pocketed $300. There's no way that you could say like you made money. The amount of time and effort that you put in, there's no way you could say like, yeah, I got paid. Yeah, 2 years of work, $300. I don't think so. It's all volunteer. The actors all volunteer. I've thought one time I did this film. It's now on YouTube called Bitch Slapped Again. And we raised $3,000 on a Kickstarter for it. But even that went to food, some props. It's not like I got paid $3,000 to make my short film. No, I mean, I put money back into the project. That's what it was for. And then I put it out for free on YouTube. I submitted it into a couple film festivals, but I have not had a lot of luck with film festivals, which is discouraging. Maybe it makes me question my work, but I've thought about it. I don't think it has anything to do with that. The stuff that I'm creating, it always feels a little more mainstream. It's not very artistic. It's not experimental. You go to a lot of independent film festivals, and even that is, I would say, they have a lot of big stars in independent films now. So to say it's independent, like truly independent, like guerrilla filmmaking, it's not. And you'll see 500 Days of Summer, which is one of my favorite films. Have you ever seen that?
Mm-mm.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in it. Zoe Deschanel. It's an independent film with stars picked up by 20th Century Fox. That's not like what we're doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just there's not a lot of people that truly understand what that means to be like, yeah, this is a truly no budget independent film.
Yeah. What keeps you going? What's that like driving force that like makes you start a new project every time?
To be better, to outdo what I did last time, to grow as a person. That's what really art is. Again, it's just constantly growing and discovering new things about yourself. I think that's the saddest thing about like a very, should I say, mundane job, something you do the same thing all the time. Can you really learn something new about yourself doing that all the time? Maybe, I don't know. But I think that's not fulfilling. That would not be fulfilling for me. And that's why I don't have a factory job. I need to be out there. I need to be creating. I need to be working with people. I love collaborating. And nothing happens overnight. And it's one of those things where I feel very blessed to, when people come to me asking, how do we do this? And I almost feel like, do I even have the answer? But in a way I do. And that's because of just constantly making all these mistakes from the past. So like, that ain't gonna work. Don't do that anymore. And then and so when it comes to a job, I don't try to get very experimental with jobs that I'm hired for. I use my own projects to make those mistakes. I don't want to make a mistake on somebody else's project.
Sure.
So.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Right.
How do you handle all of your side projects along with having a full-time job? Because that is a lot. So how do you keep yourself sane?
It doesn't feel like work. If I'm doing something that feels like work and then I'm going to do my own projects, I probably would not do so many of my own projects. I remember it was really hard in my earlier when I had a job that I didn't enjoy, because I was just drained. By the weekend, the last thing I wanted to do was go film. I was tired. But when it's something that you enjoy, if you have a job that you enjoy, the energy is just always there. I mean, yeah, you're going to get tired. That's just reality, and that's life. But yeah, having something that you enjoy where you have a job that doesn't feel like work, and you can still, I have to be careful though a little bit, because first, making a movie is not like doing a corporate video. It's two separate things. Yeah, I understand the basics of doing all these things, but telling a story, like a story that you wrote and trying to bring that to life is not like going and interviewing somebody and then throwing some B-roll on top of it. It's a totally different thing.
Sure.
So I don't feel like it's taking away from like making a movie. I feel like those are two different identities in the same bubble. Same something. I don't know.
Yeah, totally. No, that makes sense.
Nobody is asking me for my work to go do fight scenes, so that's good.
You never know. There's a time for everything.
It could happen, yeah.
You're going to be a freaking pro when it does.
I'll be the only guy that they could go to. It's like, we need a fight scene. It's like, well, we got the guy. So, I just hope that it's not in my 60s.
Just shoot it in slow-mo.
Yeah, it's like, well, they would just shoot it in normal speed.
Well, exactly.
They won't know.
What is the most fulfilling part between acting, shooting, editing? Like, what's the part that lights you up the most, if you had to pick one?
If I have to pick one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I would say editing. I really think that's where it really starts to come together. I mean, I do enjoy getting out there filming and working with the actors, and I don't know. It's just that the editing is just, I'm not even huge, I don't even enjoy putting puzzles together that much, but it's just different because this is where you're going to know if it's going to come together. And I think I like editing the most is because that's the closest to the finish line of seeing that finished product. And I guess I do, maybe I am a little bit of a hermit, so I get to be by myself. Maybe that's what it is.
I think a lot of our creatives are hermits. We kind of are introverts and like to kind of go into our own space and focus.
I said to my dad that I'm an introvert. I just was kind of saying it's like, I know that I'm an introvert. And my dad's like, no, you're not. You're not an introvert. I was like, no, I am. It's like, no. I was like, well, I don't know if he's just basing on it because I can talk to my dad. He sees the movies, and then he'll see something like this, perhaps. Like I'm doing an interview and I'm talking, and it doesn't appear as if I'm very introverted. I'm talking about something I love, so it's different.
Yeah.
But if you get me into a situation where it's like, hey, welcome to the party, have a drink, I'm like, I don't want to be here. So.
Totally. Yeah. I feel like introvert is, we need to feed our energy by like going by ourselves and spending time alone and doing our thing. And if you're an extrovert, you get recharged by being in groups of people.
Right.
You know, that's how I think.
I am exhausted. Even having a film premiere, I'm exhausted. People come up to me, talk to me about the movie. I'm like, oh, yeah, thank you. Shaking hands. Like, oh, but I give everything I got, but then afterwards I'm like, and then I cry.
Then you hide in your house for days.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't want to be around anybody ever again.
No, I am 100% the same way. Totally relate to that.
Yeah. But if I'm with people that share that same interest, it is easier because then we can talk about that. But if I have to go to talk to somebody about, I don't know, basketball, I I can't do it.
Yeah.
Football, I guess I could. Maybe football. But no, it's just different.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So I always like to ask a question to kind of wrap it up. Huh?
Okay. I said, oh, you got one more for me? All right.
I got one more for you. It's always my favorite because I always like to hear the responses. So we have a lot of, obviously, creatives listening of really all different types of fields and creativity. So if you had to give them one piece of advice what comes to mind?
I have a great answer for that, actually, because I've been asked this before. I say finish. Finish. Whatever it is that you're going to start, you may not always like it. You may think that this is not what you expected, and you might want to give up. Please finish it, and don't be afraid to share it, because if you just keep everything to yourself, one, nobody's going to know how beautiful it is that this thing that you created. I don't like everything that I make. I hate a lot of the stuff I make, but there are people that do enjoy it, and I don't want to keep that from them. Also, it is easier to grow if people come back at you and tell you things, and you should take it with a grain of salt what people say, but also, you should make what you love. But sometimes there's something very rewarding about, being able to touch somebody, and it brought them either joy or sadness because it made them feel a certain way, whether it's music or a painting. So yeah, just finish and don't be afraid to share it.
Love it. That's so good. Because a lot of times we do get discouraged and you just want to toss it in the garbage and start over again. But, you can still save it. It's not a lost cause. You might not like it, but somebody might. And we're our own worst critic anyways, so we shouldn't be the judge of that.
We absolutely are. But that means you're a good artist. If you just think that everything you do is I am genius, brilliant person, everything I do is gold. Then, well, you're an asshole.
So true. Well, I think that's a perfect place to kind of wrap it up. So
yeah, let's end on the asshole thing.
Yeah. So if someone wants to look you up, how can they best find you?
Well, you can find me on YouTube. That's where the majority of my videos are. It's just Jarrod Crooks, Jarrod Crooks. Yeah, I even have some old feature films up there. So, yeah, enjoy. Otherwise, I am on Instagram as the.fan.man. Not that that's an exciting place to go and see anything, but you can go there too.
Well, thank you so much
for sharing all of that. I really appreciate you asking me. Yeah. It's always a joy to do these type of things.
All right, that's a wrap for another episode of Intentional Harmony Creative Clarity. I hope you guys enjoyed my chat with Jarrod. He's super funny, so creative, and I was just really happy that he agreed to come on here and share his story with you guys, so I hope you got a lot out of it. If you want to find more information on him and watch all of his films, you can, again, check out the show notes. I linked everything in there. But as he said, he's on YouTube. That's probably the best place to check out his work. If you want to find out more on creativity coaching and work with me, you can go to KatieAnneCoaching.com or check me out on Instagram, KatieAnne.coaching. Just a reminder, Anne does have an E at the end, so if you can't find me, that's probably why. If you haven't heard, starting October 1st, I'm going to be launching the first ever creativity group. It is called Creative Clarity in 21 Days. I am so very excited for this. I'm limiting it to 15 people so that we can really have some one-on-one interaction and a really close-knit community of creatives who all just really want the same thing. If you are a creative person that is feeling stuck, if you're feeling unfulfilled, if you feel like your work isn't good enough, you're scared to release it to the public, maybe afraid that you're copying other people's ideas, whatever complex you have around your creativity, wherever you're getting stuck at, and whatever just doesn't feel good in your creative process, that's what we're going to work on in the group. You're going to get one-on-ones with me. We're going to have group sessions where we all can come together and share things that we're going through, share ideas, share tips, share tricks. And then I'm going to be doing some educational live sessions during that and have some guest speakers come in. It's going to be a beautiful 21 days. If you are interested, you can send me a direct message on Instagram or Facebook, or you can go to my website and you will see it pop up right away and it'll take you right to that page. So I really hope you join us. It's going to be an amazing time. And that's all I got. I hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you next time on Intentional Harmony, Creative Clarity.